Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast chat. And today I'm having, you guessed it, bison, rice, red and yellow bell pepper, and I'm drinking some cranberry juice. All right, so today I want to cover for you guys something that came up in the comments a couple of days ago, actually over on my Facebook page. And it was literally an argument against lifting heavy, and people were saying, and someone was saying, hey, you shouldn't be lifting heavy and maxing out. Look what happened to Ronnie Coleman. And I really dislike that argument because the level of intellectual dishonesty that it takes to go from Ronnie Coleman being hurt based upon the factors and why he got hurt to coming over to people in strength sports or regular lifters or other people saying, oh, you shouldn't max out or you shouldn't lift heavy because of Ronnie Coleman. You have to be insanely intellectually dishonest there. And why is that? Well, if you look at the data and the research that we have on everything from strength levels to injuries, what are the trends that we see? What is the determining factor for how much weight a person can lift? What is the single most important variable? In study after study after study after study, the amount of muscle mass that they have relative to their structure and limb lengths and height. Okay, that is the number one factor. That determines 90% of your strength. All the other variables, neuromuscular efficiency, muscle fiber distribution, all these other things, training styles to enhance intramuscular coordination, all of this other stuff only determines about 10% of your strength. The rest is the amount of muscle you have relative to how long your arms and legs and torso are. Okay, that's where when we talk about leverages and people say, oh, this sport's about leverages, that lift and powerlifting is only about leverages. What we mean by leverages is how long your arms and legs are. That's actually what we mean. That is scientifically what we mean by leverages, okay? So where are we going with this? I think the argument for Ronnie Coleman's injuries would be you shouldn't exceed more than 50 pounds of muscle more than your frame can hold without anabolics, okay? That if you're gonna use gear, don't gain more than 50 pounds of muscle with the drugs. That would be a better argument. And don't use really bad form if you're going to exceed 50 pounds of extra muscle. If you're going to reach your drug-free limit, which is right here, if you're going to go more than 50 pounds of muscle over that, you should probably be really, really careful with your form. That's the argument you can make with Ronnie Coleman. Because realistically, Ronnie Coleman would not have been lifting even remotely close to the amount of weight that he was lifting if say he had only gone 20 or 30 pounds of muscle over his natural limit for his frame, right? Let's say he only abused a bit and didn't go to mind-boggling ridiculous amounts of anabolics, which is what it takes to be at his level. Go look at the stacks that some of these pros admit to using, you'll be shocked. But I can assure you no one winning the Mr. Olympia multiple times is on the lower end of that equation. They're not being more conservative. That doesn't happen. Right? The amount of muscle that he carried allowed him to lift weights that his frame in a drug-free or even a conservative drug use environment would never have occurred. It wouldn't even be biologically possible. So it's not the fact that he was lifting heavy that's the issue. It's the fact that he put so much muscle on his frame that he is capable of lifting weights that crushed his bones. Number two, what is the cause of most injuries? Well, what does the research show that are weightlifting related injuries, serious injuries, the majority are caused by what? Overuse. Well, Ronnie Coleman did very large amounts of volume with extremely heavy weights for high reps. And he had to use extremely heavy weights to get a hypertrophic effect. When you reach a certain threshold, when a muscle gets bigger, the only way it's going to continue to get bigger is either to up your dose or to have progressive overload. Ronnie Coleman did mostly high reps. But if you look at some of his high rep sets, Look at the stuff that he was doing for high reps and then ask yourself how much of that contributed to injuries. The guy was doing 12 rep sets of cheat rows with horrifically bad form with 585 pounds. Okay? If we go on the idea of telling people not to lift heavy, 12 reps wouldn't be. The same people who are telling you to lift heavy, not lift heavy, will tell you to take a 10 or a 12 rep set or a 15 rep set to failure or at least fatigue, right? That's what they'll tell you. Well, that's the sort of stuff that got Ronnie Coleman hurt. It wasn't deadlifts and things that hurt Ronnie Coleman. It doesn't appear to be. Look at his rowing. Look at all his back injuries and then look at the way that he rowed and the amount of weight that he used with that terrible form doing multiple sets of 12 reps with it. Okay, and then come back and tell me that he got hurt from doing heavy singles. No, he got hurt from doing stuff like that. I mean, the row form was atrocious. But here's the thing. Excessively heavy weight for ultra high reps with atrocious form. That's a recipe for disaster for injuring your back. When you carry so much muscle that you have to use over 500 pounds for high reps to get any stimulus. Look at the shear stress on your back on what he was doing compared to a conventional deadlift. It's way, way more shear. Right? A single rep with 585 done the way that he rode puts more shear on your back than an 800-pound max deadlift does. Go do the math yourself. Look at the moment arms and the levers. That's actually worse for your back. And he's doing multiple sets of 12 that way. Right? There's your issue. Why do you think most pro bodybuilders train lazy? No, go watch the way they train. Watch tons of these guys train, and you look at the weights versus the reps that they're using. People say, well, it's still working for them. No, the drugs are working for them. Most of them don't reach anywhere near. Some of them are taking weights that they could do 50 or 100 reps with at their size and doing sets of 15. Okay? That person could easily triple the weight and do the same number of reps that they're doing sometimes because of the size that they have. They don't. Now, if the average person were to train that way, what would happen? They wouldn't gain any muscle. If you look at the way, again, the intensity versus the reps being used, and look at things like effective rep theory, and tell me that those people, that if the average Joe replicated what these bodybuilders are doing, that they would gain muscle. They wouldn't gain anything. Based upon all the data that we have, the way most of these pro bodybuilders are training, the average person, if they were to replicate those exact intensity levels, they would not gain a single pound of muscle in a year. Nothing. They would gain zero. They train that way because they can get away with it because of the amount of stuff they're using. They're actually really lazy. But by that same token, they're not going to get overuse injuries compared to the guys who train really hard. And therein lay the problem. When you abuse your body to the degree that they do with the things that they put into it, if you train really, 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 really hard, you end up like Ronnie Coleman. You might be the best in the world at what you do. Probably be number one, but you're also going to destroy your body. But the problem we have here is that people who are not enhanced to that degree are not getting hurt from this. And in fact, let's go over it, and if you look at what most of the best coaches out there notice, lifters don't even get hurt that often on their 1 rep max lifts. Okay? That's actually not even where powerlifters get hurt. Again, barring some exceptions, the majority of powerlifters and strength athletes get hurt on their rep work. They get hurt with 3 rep maxes. They get hurt with 5 rep maxes. They don't get hurt as often when doing an all-out 1 rep max, even if it's a little grindy. The injury rate's actually relatively low there, if form is decent. It's overuse that hurts us. It's overuse injuries that hurt us. And those overuse injuries and things tend to come out the most when we take a fairly heavy set with multiple reps to failure or to an absolute limit, because that's when form degrades. Form degrades badly. And if you're already on the cusp of an overuse issue, the way that form breaks down on, say, a 3rd or a 4th rep failing is what gets you hurt. It's not even the 1 rep maxes that are getting people hurt to the same degree. And I'm not saying people don't get hurt on 1 rep maxes, but it's actually a lot rarer than you think. I can tell you right now, as far as regular gym goers go, most regular gym goers are actually getting hurt on their 10 and 12 rep sets. And they're getting hurt because of overuse issues. They're getting hurt because of poor program management, right? Overuse injuries combined usually with bad technique, with overuse combined together is where we're seeing probably the majority of injuries happening, or due to muscle imbalances. There's where your problems are. It's not necessarily the lifting heavy. And using Ronnie Coleman as an example when we look at those factors, it is actually completely and ridiculously intellectually dishonest. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.